Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, episode 900. Well, piece of content 999, which is an AEW Double or Nothing review show with me, Adam Cousins, and my illustrious AEW co-host, Mr. David Robinson. Evening, Dave.
Hey mate, how you doing?
Excited, episode 999 or content 999. We're not going to say who the 1000th is, but we've just been talking, and it's going to be a big one for our listeners.
Oh yeah, it's a significant one. It will be one that people will be very happy with.
Yeah, certainly, especially me. But anyway, before we get to that, look, we got to get to Double or Nothing. Just an overview of the show quickly. I mean, look, one thing people can slate TNA, Jesus, people can slate AEW as much as they want, but when it comes to pay-per-views, I don't think anyone does them better.
No, it's very rare you come off the back of a AEW pay-per-view disappointed,
Yeah.
and particularly a Double or Nothing as well. And I will get into it and chop it up, but I just thought from start to finish, it was a great show.
It,
Slightly too
mhm,
long,
mhm.
maybe. One or two matches too many, but overall the quality, even the matches that I wouldn't necessarily have had in there and maybe a match too many, it was still really good. And something happened in most of them as well. There was good story as well as great action. Um, yeah, really, really pleased.
Yeah, definitely so. We always say that's the one thing AEW is sometimes will get too much of a good thing on a show, but that is what it is. We won't talk about necessarily the buy-in, but we will mention Megan Bain and Penelope. I know Harley Cameron and Anna Jay, quite actually surprisingly.
Yeah, we both got that one wrong, didn't we, from the
We did.
predictions?
Yeah, I was quite surprised that Harley Cameron. She did hit the finish on Penelope Ford on that one. Well, yeah, it was a bit of a fun one. I didn't see him losing the match, but they did, and that is what it is. And of course, RPG Vice and CRU, sorry, versus Bandino, AR Fox, Hologram, and Commandor. Hologram Commander and the team pick up that again. That was wild for a pre-show match, wasn't it? That one.
I haven't actually saw the pre-show, mate, to be honest.
Ah,
I will watch it before I watch Dynamite this week just to catch up. But yeah, I've only watched the main show.
good.
Uh, I've read the results. Well, I saw the results from the pre-show. But yeah, that's a match I do want to see. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a pre-show match and they've got more people on the card, which means more wrestlers get paid, more exposures. So I don't want to be too critical of it, but I'm just thinking those fans are in attendance. That is one hell of a long event, but they were still there at the end, weren't they? In the main event, they didn't really tire. I would say that it was a really strong crowd. Um, yeah, so yeah, maybe we should withhold the criticism because everyone there seemed to have a great time.
They did. No, they absolutely did. And a name backstage by the name of Alex Hammerstone backstage.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah.
Interesting. We'll get into that another time. But yeah, an interesting name that we may have to look at. But look, AEW started Double or Nothing, the proper show. Women's Owen, Hart, Women's Owen, or whatever you want to call it. Mercedes Mone beating Jamie Hayter in this match and going on to face, we'll find out. But the AEW Women's Champ, one of the AEW Women's Champions anyway, Mercedes Mone is the other one. Look, I slate Mercedes, and you know my feelings on her, but I always give credit where credit is due. This was a phenomenal way to kick off the pay-per-view. They both left it all in the ring, and I think both of those, even Jamie Hayter in defeat, should be very proud about how that match come about and how that match was on TV.
Yeah, it was awesome. I thought the both of the women's singles matches were great. I think Willow and um, Marina were awesome as well in the Anarchy in the Arena
Mm.
match. Really good showing for the women's division. And this was a great way to open up the card and a superb match. Could have gone either way, really. There's certainly an argument that this could have been one that Mercedes could have dropped and put Hayter over. But as we spoke about on the prediction show, I think the biggest match they can do for All In is Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. So not massively surprised they went in that direction. But it was a real great kind of return to a longer match as well for Hayter. You know, she's
Mm.
been back a while now. But I can't remember having this kind of feature match and long match on pay-per-view for a while. So it was a reminder to everyone just how good she is.
Yeah, indeed. It was a fantastic match. And as I say, most as you've actually quite rightly said, the matches on this show and AEW pay-per-views in general are normally amazing. But that was a fantastic one. And as I say, I always take credit where credit is due, and Mercedes was a great match. She say she goes on to face. You mentioned it, Tony Storm. We'll get into that in a minute. The next one on the list, though, FTR with Stokely Hathaway against Nigel McGuinness, Danny Garcia with Danny Magic. Look, the finish of this, Dax Harwood locked Danny Garcia in the sharpshooter, and he eventually passed out. Um, I thought it was damn good. I love this. Was really. I mean, Nigel McGuinness hasn't lost a step. Um, I think all eyes now shift to All In, and I think FDR may be facing Christian Cage and Adam Copeland at All In. That's where I see it going. My only slight issue, and I just think it's because we're seeing this more and more now, is people passing out rather than tapping out. I feel now that's been kind of over cemented in wrestling a little bit.
No, I agree. I don't think it would have um, gone against Garcia too much if he would have been forced to tap out here, given the circumstances. Um, I didn't know. I think there's one thing when you've got a choke on or a sleeper and you're stopping the breathing or you're restricting the breathing. But I think when it's something like a sharpshooter or, a Walls of Jericho or an ankle lock, I think to see someone pass out is a little bit much even for wrestling. So, yeah, I do agree with you. It's a little bit overused at times. They do it to try and protect the performer, don't they? And
Yeah.
to stop them from giving up, if you like. But I don't think it would have gone against Garcia if he would have been forced to tap there, given who he was up against and the match that they'd had. I thought it was really good. Didn't really get any twists or turns in terms of Nigel, which I thought might have happened. But yeah, he looked great again, and yeah, hopefully, I don't think he's going to wrestle frequently, but yeah, I'm quite happy for him to get in the ring from time to time, and like battle royals or the casino, like he did last year
Yeah.
at All In. Um, yeah, he's still got a lot to offer in ring as well as on the commentary desk.
He does indeed, and we'll see where they go with FTR heading into All In. Bit gutted that we're not going to get that one. I think, to be quite honest, I would have loved that. Hey
Yeah.
ho, it is what it is. Now, one of the matches that I think you may be alluding to when you said maybe could have been off or on the pay-per-view was probably the stretcher match between Briscoe and Ricochet. I was kind of like because it was booked last minute. There's a little story to it. Don't get me wrong. I was like, it was kind of last minute booking. The finish. So I think he hit Mark Briscoe with a spirit gun, I think, or something along those lines, to put him into the ambulance. I mean, it was just nuts. This match was, absolutely crazy as you can imagine, tables and everything else going into it. I wasn't expecting a ton of stuff in this match, but I really enjoyed it. They both went crazy. Of course, they both got bloody, which I think was a taste of what they were going to get in the main event. And people kind of knew that already. But I still think both of these guys was fantastic. And I feel as if the winner was right. But I do think Briscoe's becoming slightly more of a quote unquote enhancement talent in AEW at the moment. And perhaps he should be taken a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, we spoke about that as well on the preview show that we did. Um, I certainly think that Mark could have gone over here, and I think it would have been great for him, and it wouldn't really have gone against Ricochet too much, given the fact that it was a stretcher match. There was certainly a way to do it that Briscoe could eke out the win. I spoke to you about not a massive fan of like stretcher matches and
Mm.
ambulance matches, but I did actually like the fact that the ambulance that was placed there was used again later on in the night, and
Mm.
we'll get to that and we'll talk about it more in depth. And so I did like that aspect. I think that's a really good idea to have a match earlier on in the night where you're using a gimmick that can have such an impact on one of the matches later on in the card. So that was good, and that's not by accident. That's definitely by design. So I thought the match was pretty good. Um, as you say, not a massive surprise that Ricochet won, but it would have been a nice little twist if we could have had Briscoe going over in this one.
Yeah, it would have been good, but Ricochet stays strong in this one, and who knows what happened? All in and Forbidden Door. Who knows where that's going to go with Ricochet?
Ricochet has been fantastic since he's come into the company.
Mm.
He's doing some great heel work. He's not considered great on the mic. I think he's done actually pretty good on the mic. I've liked his character. The use of the scissors. To begin with, I was a little bit dubious, but he's actually, brought like a prop into wrestling that we're not used to seeing and used it quite effectively. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with Ricochet now, where they position him if he's going after a title. Um, but yeah, more of the same. Really, he always has good matches. He has always had good matches, hasn't he?
Yep.
Uh, but sometimes he hasn't really had the spot on the card or the opportunity to show what he can do as from a character perspective. And we're seeing that now. And yeah, I think he's been a highlight for AEW in 2025.
Yeah, he certainly has. Don't I thought it was the best move of his career, probably joining AEW
Yeah.
from WWE. We move on to the AEW World Tag Team Championship now. The Hurt Syndicate with MVP and MJF against the Sons of Texas, Dustin and Sammy Guevara here. Look, match was decent enough. Shelton Benjamin hit Sammy Guevara with the thrust kick for the victory. I do love the Hurt Syndicate. I couldn't get into this match personally because I kind of thought there was nothing wrong with it. The match was absolutely fine, and
Yeah.
I just thought that the match was more of a cool down sort of. You've had this high, they've had these two, three great matches. Now we're bringing it down, and it's nothing against the match when I say that, but you need to be able to catch your breath a little bit before you get that next kick of action in there.
Yeah, this is one of them really that I'm really a massive fan of the Hurt Syndicate, and I definitely want them to be on the pay-per-view. But this just seems so obvious that they were going to win. Uh,
Mm,
they had like a proper match, if you like, a back and forth.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, you don't want to look make Sammy and Dustin look stupid. Um, but I don't know if it necessarily needed this. I don't know how long did it go. I know it wasn't massively long, but I think it could have been shorter. I think it could have been a little bit more decisive for the Hurt Syndicate. Which again, Sammy and Dustin are your Ring of Honor champions, so you don't
Mm,
want to do them dirty and make them look, But I think like we was talking about, there's nobody on the level really of the Hurt Syndicate at the minute. There's nobody that you look at and think they're gonna get beat. Similar
yeah.
to House of Black a couple of years ago when they first held the trios titles.
Mhm.
It's just such a great fit for that group to be holding those titles, and you just couldn't see how they were going to drop the belts. And I feel like that with the Hurt Syndicate. So yeah, nothing wrong with it. It was a fine match, but I would have rather it be a little bit more decisive and a bit more of a dominant display for the Hurt Syndicate.
Sure. Shortest match of the night, 12 minutes 35. Not by much, by seconds. But yeah,
Yeah,
shortest match of the night. But you're right. Could have gone shorter. I think 10 would have probably maybe they were given 10 and they go over.
yeah.
But,
I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical and nitpicky with that, but I just think the Hurt Syndicate it was a formality they were going to win, so
yeah.
perhaps I've seen it happen a bit quicker, given the fact that we got so much on this card.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Continental Championship next. Klitschko, Okada, Speedball, Mike Bailey. Fucking hell. I mean, you're talking, match quality, and we've said it. I mean, this was at this point, this was my match of the night, and I'm going to go as far as saying this was Klitschko Okada's best match in AEW so far for me personally.
No,
Um,
I agree. Absolutely. He showed, I think a lot of people have seen Okada come in and they know he's, considered by many as was one of the best wrestlers in the world.
mm,
But I haven't seen too much. If they're just purely watching AEW and
yeah,
they haven't seen much New Japan stuff, um, I know he was in TNA years and years ago, but I think there'll be a lot of people that were new to Okada,
mm,
and this just showed just why he's so good. We've seen glimpses of it, and we've seen bits in matches. We saw it in the Continental Classic last year, but
mhm.
um, I think their styles really work well.
Yeah.
Different styles. And it was, I think, Taz about the styles make matches
Mm,
cliche, but there's no better example on the card than this. they just worked so well together. I don't know if they've ever faced each other. I presume they have
Yeah.
at some point. But yeah, it just really flowed well. They had great chemistry, and no massive surprise that Okada won.
No.
But again, Bailey wasn't. Bailey looked like a true contender. He looked like he was on a level that he could compete with Okada, and on any given night he could have snatched the win. And it's hard to do that at times. When
Mm.
you're up again, when you are such an underdog, to come across Mike Bailey, probably even more popular and gaining even more fans off the back of a loss, just shows how good the match was.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of think Mike Bailey forced Okada to take things to another level in that
Yeah.
match. That makes sense. That was
Exactly. He couldn't coast. He couldn't, not that he would. He's a pro, but I think at times he's accused of that.
mm,
Not sometimes having the 5-star matches that he's capable of. Um, there could be a number of reasons behind that, and sometimes it can just simply be a case of the competition or the time that you get or you're allocated. But they were allowed to go out there and put on the match that they wanted to put on, and it was an absolute hit. And yeah, again, expected Okada to be walking out with the title. We're working towards Kenny and Okada all in. Yeah, that's pretty much a given, I think,
yeah.
as long as they both, stay healthy and I'm sure that's the match that's in mind. But this was a great, I don't know, a great way of showing what Okada can do as champion. Showcasing the Continental title, and yeah, I still think we're going to get some kind of unification match with Omega. I think that's the way they'll go.
Possibly. We'll wait and see because the tournament does start on AEW this week. There's a trip, there's 3 matches, and the winners of those 3 matches and Kenny Omega will going to be a fatal 4-way to take on the next champion. I think it's the next opportunity for that title. So
Yeah,
we'll find out. Speaking of championships, women's world championship time, we mentioned earlier on, Mercedes Mone was going to face the winner All In of Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa.
perfect, mate.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Look, um, these two have got great chemistry anyway. We've seen it
Yeah.
on TV pan out from a character perspective. Tony Storm, arguably the best character in wrestling right now with the timeless stuff. We said about this being Okada's best match in AEW. I think this was Mina's best match as well. She's got a very bright future in the company after this. I mean, these two are just so good, and you do look at the AEW women's, and I look at a lot of the women's divisions in wrestling, and the knockouts in TNA, the NWA, the WWE. Women's wrestling right now has never been as strong as it is.
Yeah, I think there was a sign in the audience, best women's roster ever.
Mm,
But I think you could hold that sign up at all of the companies at the minute, at every
yes.
single wrestling company in America. I think, and we spoke about it again last a few days ago. This is such a boom period for women's wrestling. Not just the performers, there's always been good performers at times, but sometimes the way that they're treated, booked, the time they're given, hasn't simply been fair. It hasn't reflected their talent. And we're seeing that now, and we're seeing the confidence that those women's divisions are gaining because they're really trusted in these prominent positions, whether it's st opening the card like Mercedes and Jamie, or going out here, Tony and Mina, and putting on one of the matches of the night. Again, unfortunately, in some respects, it would have been a huge surprise for Mina to pull off the win. I think, because of where we're going as well, and that's the thing. Sometimes we criticize people criticize AEW about the long-term storytelling, but
Mhm.
the more long-term storytelling you do, that can kind of telegraph where we're going with certain things, which means the outcomes of matches haven't got quite as much element of doubt as they may otherwise have. But I thought this was excellent. I thought it was really, really good. Mina, as you say, huge future in AEW. She'll certainly be holding one of the 2 title belts before long. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her and having these matches against the Willows, the Statlanders, the Sky Blues, the Julia Harts. We could go on and on with that list. Um, but yeah, she certainly showed on pay-per-view why she has been put in that position and why people think so highly of her.
Definitely so. And the fact that Mariah May didn't come back, I think, kind of seals that fate, right?
Yeah, I think she's gone, mate. I think as we spoke about, I was a little bit surprised when those rumors were coming out that she might be involved at the weekend because
Mm.
I'm pretty sure she's seen out a contract and she'll be out of there. And she'll be over in NXT, I would imagine, to begin with, at the first opportunity she can.
Like they've sure set up a GoFundMe to get onto the main roster. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on swiftly and very, very quickly onto the match that I kind of thought was going to main event the show, but it didn't. And it's understandable. There wasn't really, it was like one or two for me that was going to main event. This was Anarchy in the arena. The shit hit the fan. Fucking let the bodies hit the floor. Anything else? They were playing music throughout. Kenny cut it off halfway through, and we had "I'm So Excited" playing, which was the old Dynamite theme for about a week. In this, we saw the return of Mark Briscoe from the ambulance, which was absolutely hilarious through this match. This, I think, was again, we've said about best Okada match, best Mina match. I think this was the best Anarchy in the arena match. And I can't like I get it if it's not your thing, but I can't understand anyone that can't say they didn't enjoy this match. It was brilliant. Omega with the one winged angel through the table, Swerve with the stomp with the tax on, pick up the victory. And that bit alone, I think, just goes to show you where they still feel Swerve is in the company.
Mate, I'm pretty sure we said this with the last Anarchy match, that it was the best one. But yeah, a bit of recency bias, but I was watching this thinking this is just amazing. This is just everything that I've always enjoyed about AEW. And yeah, there's elements of it being a spot fest. But you had a bit of everything in this. You had some comedy in it as well, some really funny moments, some
Yeah,
sickening moments with the stapler and
to the tongue.
the one in the tongue, yeah. Um, the use of Briscoe, the use of the ambulance, for him to come back out, I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get Eddie.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how far off he is, but we were kind of fantasy booking a bit when we were
Yeah.
talking the other day. But I thought, although Mark Briscoe lost his match, to then redeploy him in this role as the running, and he hadn't washed after his match, and he was covered in blood. Um, I just thought that was absolutely great, and that did help him, even though he lost, it did kind of show you how much the company think of him, that they would put him in that role because it could have been anyone. There's a number of people that we speculated on might come back, make a return, get involved. So the fact that it was Briscoe, I was really happy for that moment as well. I thought it was a great moment. We had those teases on Dynamite about the one winged angel
Hmm.
at the table. And so I'm glad that like those moments got paid off on the pay-per-view. I loved the super kick to the ref as well. I thought that was really. I know they've done it before with Rick Knox, but that moment when there was just kicking everyone and they turned and super kick Knox, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
No complaints at all, I don't think. And I just, it was exactly what that match is. I liked the music. I liked how they trolled themselves with So
Yes.
Excited, because they absolutely did, and they can poke fun at themselves at times. And I think with that they may do that again with that song. Um, Bodies was the perfect choice.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you kind of go back to, I think was it one of the WrestleManias in the early 2000s or a Backlash or
SummerSlam, wasn't
it's been used a few times on
it?
it
Yeah.
in wrestling. It was the perfect song for this match. I think it was the only choice as well I heard a little bit on the pre-show, but or the post-show, and just saying that the list, it was a list of one. That was the song they wanted.
Yeah.
But even the way that they cut the music when Cesaro, oh, not Cesaro, sorry, Claudio, Giant swings
Yeah.
someone through the speaker, um, and then the music cut out like perfect timing. So yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. You know, technically, to some people it would be the match of the night because of the entertainment it provided. but it was very different to anything else on the card. It's a very different match to anything else in wrestling, and I enjoy it every single time.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit of fun, that's for sure. I I feel as if like the next match was kind of, and I kind of understand it. When you're not main eventing, I said it earlier about you kind of have these highs are highs, and then they have to bring you down, and it's not a disrespect to the people that are in there, but the next match was the match before the main event, and I totally feel they done that, which was Paragon versus the Don Callis family. Carl Fletcher hitting the sheer drop brainbuster on Kyle O'Reilly to pick up the pin. I'm pretty sure you said that Kyle O'Reilly was going to be the fall guy, and
Yeah,
this that brought
we said it with Fletcher. Yeah, we said
yeah,
Fletcher.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. That brought out the rest of the Don Callis family to attack Paragon. But then Brody King, Ishii, and Tanahashi to even the odds send the Don Callis family packing out of the ring. I think this match was way better than it kind of had right to be. I
Yeah.
was surprised that the crowd was still into it because you do get those lulls, don't you? And you mentioned the 4 hour show. The fans are like, you got to have that time to breathe as a fan. I agree with you on this. I think this one could have been better placed on Dynamite. I love the placement of the match though, because like I said, it's in between your two main events. And of course, it does lead into something which could be happening either on Dynamite or later on down the line with Brody King, Tanahashi, and Ishii.
Yeah, it's setting up stuff for Forbidden Door, isn't it, as well? So
Mm.
some more integration with New Japan, which is what we see over the years, going into a big show that for us will be there this year, it's in
We
London.
will.
Exciting to see that Tanahashi might be involved. And again, exactly what you said, I echo the same point, really. The placement was perfect because you look at it and you kind of feel sorry for the wrestlers that have got to follow Anarchy. And you know that Ospreay and Hangman's going to be a great match.
Yeah.
So they're in like a position where, you know, it's not. It's not necessarily the place you pick to be on the card, but I thought they did a great job. I thought it was a really good match, and as you say, the
Yeah.
crowd surprisingly and not surprisingly, the talent in the ring and the performers that we had, and the action they put on, the crowd should be into it. But you would think they would have been a bit fatigued after what they'd been watching for. I think Gannicky went like 35, 40 minutes.
Yep. 35.
So yeah, you'd think that's when people are going to get a drink and food and toilet and recharge. But they were with it, and it was a great match and a good angle at the end. So it set things up perfectly to go into the main event.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go for a piss during a TNA during TNA again during an AEW show, would you? It's
Yeah.
it's a little bit especially one like this, which was incredible. It now brings us to the main event of the evening, the men's Owen, I suppose, fitting Owen Hart main event. Kind of has a great ring to it. Hangman Page, Will Ospreay, and
The-
geez,
On that point, the whole show was kind of bookended. It had the women's Owen Hart to open and the men's to close, which I thought was a great thing to do as well.
it was a great thing to do, and two guys that ultimately, no disrespect to the other the wrestlers that have won the Owen and the finals, but if you're going to put two guys in there to show ultimate respect to Owen Hart and his legacy and everything that he was in, Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page are your two guys that you would put in there. They had one, probably one of the best television matches that I have seen in my lifetime. And that isn't just that is, 40 odd years of watching, or nearly 40 years, or so, 30 odd years of wrestling. And they've had, for me, it was something that if you wanted to put, like, as I said before, just then I said about Owen Hart, and that if you put Owen Hart in a dictionary and a match next to him that would be fitting of that man's legacy, these two would be the two people. That match would be the match you put in there.
Yeah, yeah, you like to think that Owen would have enjoyed watching that match. That
Yeah.
was a match that, you wouldn't necessarily saw him have in WWE, but a match that he would have absolutely approved of and enjoyed. Um, it was perfect, mate. It was
Mm.
absolutely perfect. Use that word in the past, but I can't think of a better one to sum this main event up. I got it wrong in terms of the prediction, But as the match was unfolding, I could kind of see the direction it was going, and I loved it. I loved the fact that Hangman won. I loved the story that they've told with Hangman for the past, well, since the start of AEW, to be honest. You can talk about the stuff in the last 2 years, which they did on commentary and, how Hangman's got to this point and it's like his redemption story. But I think his whole um, journey arc since the very first Double or Nothing to this point has just been sensational. And it's kind of like Ospreay's going to be AEW World Champion, and I thought for one, I know you predicted Hangman, didn't you? You did think they were going to go with him. I thought that that was what was being done. I thought we were getting to the point where Ospreay was going to be the champion and he was going to be the one to dethrone Moxley. But it's kind of so fitting that Hangman, who's been there the whole time, and he's learned these lessons and he just knows how to be the best pro wrestler he can be. He knows how to overcome every opponent. He's the challenges he's had, the battles he's had, everything that he's gone through personally, in terms of in the story. Um, that he's at that point now, he's the best version of himself and he can overcome the odds, beat an Ospreay who is absolutely on fire since he's come into the company, and now to set that match up with Moxley, which will be at All In, I think that's just the perfect main event. I really do. I don't mean to backtrack because my prediction was Ospreay. I did think that's the way they were going, but as the match was unfolding and we had like even the standoff when they did kind of, like when they were going for the hidden blade and the buckshot,
Hmm.
that little standoff, and then it was Hangman that hit the buckshot. That
Yeah.
kind of telegraphed that Hangman was going to be the one getting his hand raised in victory. It just, there was enough for me to go, okay, that's the real story. Hangman's the story. Ospreay is fantastic and a worthy winner and we'd be a worthy champion. But everything that Hangman is AEW. He's
Yes.
always been at the core of AEW and a lot of the best stuff that we've seen over the last 6 years. So I'll stop talking and let you say something. But that was the perfect main event for me. I can't think of a better main event in recent history. I really can't.
I agree. I don't think I've got really much more to add. I'm just glad, I kind of said Hangman because uh, in a way I want Ospreay to win it, over here at Wembley Stadium. And I think perhaps his way to it could be either the Owen next year or the I don't know. We'll have to see. But it was an incredible match to cap off an incredible pay-per-view for AEW. And
It's character building for Will as well, because
yeah.
he doesn't always win, but he comes back stronger. And we've seen that in the past. We saw it against MJF when he lost was it still called the international title at the
Yeah, I
time?
think so.
All
Yeah.
Atlantic. Well, MJF had renamed it the American and he'd renamed it something. But All American title was he? I,
Something along those lines.
yeah.
I can't remember.
And like he came back and and got it. And I think that's the same thing that will happen here. Will come back stronger, having learnt the lessons. In the story. Um, After coming so close, like a split second from being the one to take on Moxley. There was a bit in the match when they didn't pick it up on commentary, but he was hitting Hangman, and Hangman was going, "Is this what you've got? Is this
Mm.
what you take to Mox?" Like a kind of coach. Like, and it's again just another example that Hangman has got that. As good as they both are, Hangman has just got that little bit more experience. He's been in AEW from day one. He's dealt with Moxley from day one, and he's the one that should go on and bring the title back to AEW.
Yeah, definitely so. That's where, well, Hangman, I think, will bring the title back and maybe have a little bit of a perhaps a square off with Swerve at some point. I think perhaps anyway. We will.
Yeah, that is still there. I think that's as long as those two are in AEW, they'll always have some kind of rivalry involvement. Every time those two come onto the screen, there'll be a reaction from the audience. you know,
Yeah.
every time they face each other, whether that's in a battle royal or backstage. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they'll will definitely revisit that, and they'll have another match at some point in the future with the AEW World Title on the line.
Yeah, definitely so. Looking forward to that incredible, incredible show from AEW. But we have got obviously, going back to us now, Dave, 1,000 pieces of content, an incredible. Listen, we can big ourselves up as much as I think we're allowed to in this case due to the amount of work myself, you, Andy, Parker, Fiona, Rachel, everyone has done on this show, and the show doesn't work without us lot. It certainly doesn't work without our listeners as well. But 2.5, 2 and a bit years ago, we started this, and I feel like I don't know. I'm still enjoying it 2.5 years later, and I think that just shows you we enjoy what we do, and myself, you, and everyone else. I think we're just riding a crest of that wave still.
Yeah, I absolutely love being involved, mate, and being talking so much AEW with you over the past few years. It's certainly as well enhanced my experience of wrestling, and my enjoyment of wrestling. The hours that you put into this show, mate, or the emails you send, or the meetings that you plan, and the links that you send out, and everything involved in everything you've done. I mean, you are hitting the turnbuckle, mate, and I am just grateful to play a small part of it. And yeah, thank you. And here's to the next 1,000 pieces of content that we'll hopefully put out over the next few years.
Yeah, indeed, indeed, we will. There's be videos that are going out across the social media all week from the people that some of the people that have sent it through to us. Big special interview, like I said, will be announced later on today. So just or later on tonight, very late tonight, because hopefully going to be recording it tonight. But it's fitting of the 1,000th episode. Let's just say that. Dave, hopefully you'll be back with us this weekend as as we talk more wrestling, maybe a week in wrestling, maybe an AEW, maybe we'll create our own UK Forbidden Door, as that's what we're going to see. I don't know. We'll think of something for us to do this weekend. But a big thanks to you, as always, our resident problem child. Big thanks to everyone watching. Don't forget, though, you can see us at HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media platforms. We're back tomorrow with potentially yeah, we'll be there. No, we'll be back tomorrow. Yes, with the big 1,000th interview. I'll have to get it all edited tomorrow quite quickly, but that'll be there for you tomorrow, as will NWA with myself and Miss Fiona Lockroom. But until then, everybody, stay elite, stay safe, and Jave, it's AEW. Sorry, serenade us off the air.
It's time to bid you all adieu. Goodbye. Mwah. Good night. Bang.